Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel if you have been here before. So if you don't know me, my name's Beth and I'm a seamstress, but I knit and crochet, and I really hope that you can't hear too much of the outside noise. I think someone's trying to jumpstart their car and I need to film this introduction. As you have seen from the title and the thumbnail, today is going to be kind of, I guess, like a bit of a tutorial on how I made these fold back mittens. So they just look like this. This is the back. They look completely stockinette and they've got this little button here, and then the inside, I'm trying to like open them up for you here, they've got this like rib and they just fold back like this, and literally there's like a little loop on the top and they just connect to the button and you can wear them either way. So I kind of made these for myself more out of necessity than anything, and also I wanted a use for this yarn that I had in stash. So I drive to work early in the mornings and it's like a 40-minute drive plus de-icing the car, and basically I own no gloves and no mittens, so I wanted to make myself some of these fold back ones, basically so that I can like wear them outside to the car and then I can just pop the backs down and put my hands on the steering wheel. But yeah, before I get too far into the yarn and specifics and stuff, I just want to quickly say I haven't filmed a tutorial before, so please bear with me. I have tried my best to get good angles of things, but I'm not going to teach you how to knit. So you basically need to know how to knit, how to purl, and how to knit in the round, and that's pretty much it. Also you will have to pick up stitches on the back, but I will show you where to pick them up. But yeah, it'd be good if you knew how to do that too. I think that these are a really good like stash busting project, or even like a gift knit. I know early March is maybe not the time to be thinking of gift knits, but here in the UK it is still freezing cold every day, and especially like in the mornings and in the evenings, like when it's like leaving work time. So that's kind of what the idea for these are. If anyone is interested in an actual written pattern, I'm considering, oh, let me shut the blind. Yeah, I'm considering writing this up as just a free downloadable pattern, popping it on the website and on Ravelry just to kind of accompany the video if you don't want to keep having to watch the video if you do end up making these. But I will probably need people to test that, so yeah, this video is going to go up, and if people want a written pattern then I can definitely work on that as well. But yeah, so let's get into the actual specifics. So the yarn that I used to make these is the Isager, there's the front of it, the Isager Eco Melange. So my boyfriend bought me this a couple of years ago. We went to Denmark together last year, but the year before he went like with his family and bought me this, and it's 80% alpaca and 20% fine merino wool. It's 50 grams for 150 meters, so they recommend a 3mm needle, and that is what I used. He bought me this because he thought I would like the fiber percentages, which I do. He did very well picking this out for me. But he bought me 3 of these balls, and obviously that's only 450 meters and it's quite a fine yarn, so for the longest time I didn't know what to do with it. I decided that I would make these, and I didn't think that this yarn would go as far as it did. He bought me 3 balls and I have this much left, so I have just gone and weighed it. This is 40 grams. So, and then I also weighed the mittens separately, and yeah, this literally takes 60 grams worth of yarn for both mittens. So that is with no modifications, obviously. Basically I have knit to accommodate for my nails because I always have the exact same press on nails on. I make them myself at home and I always use the exact same tips, so I have basically made my gloves to compensate for the tips. But I do have pretty small hands, so basically if you have bigger hands than me, you might want to add some more length to the middle section, which I will say later in the video. But yeah, literally making them to exactly this length was about 60 grams. So I think worst ways you probably would only need about 70 if you want to extend them. And yeah, like I said, anything within this category of about 50 grams for 150 meters. So yeah, like I said, I knit these on 3mm needles, so I did them completely in magic loop. I am not the biggest lover of DPNs. I don't mind them, but I find that I get a ladder in like the middle if I do it on DPNs, and spoiler alert, the top of it is kind of shaped like if you've ever knit a sock and you like decrease on either side, that is how I did the top of the mitten. There's also increases here, so in my opinion this works best on magic loop, but if you prefer shorties or if you prefer DPNs or anything like that, I guess you just have to adjust. So alongside your yarn, you're also obviously going to need 2 little buttons just to sit here. Another adjustment you can make, I've just thought of, is you can like obviously knit the cuff longer. So if I pop these on, these literally just come down my wrist, but they don't go particularly far up my arm. I normally wear like a puffer coat to work on top of my fleece, and it's got like tighter cuffs, so I didn't really want anything that was gonna be right up my arm. But yeah, without further ado, I guess we'll just jump into the pattern. The only other things that you will need are literally just like a yarn needle to weave your ends in, which I think is pretty standard. These have been washed and blocked. I did wash and block these. I would recommend washing and blocking them when you're done, because it helps flatten out the join here where you pick up for like the flap. It just helps, I think, flatten everything out. This yarn, I will say, is super forgiving for any mistakes you might make, because I mean, yeah, you can see. But the only other thing is, I was worried in places that this maybe is not the most easy yarn to read in terms of doing a tutorial, so I'm sorry if there are any places in the video where the stitches are not super visible. I will try my best. I'm going to voice over everything and also hopefully pop some written instructions in, but I also did not want to reknit these for the sake of just filming another part, so I hope you don't mind, but this is just actually how I knit these. And yeah, we will just jump straight into the video. I will voice over me, will tell you what's going on. Completely forgot to say, gauge is pretty much what the yarn recommends. 24, 25 stitches for 10 centimeters or 4 inches. If anything, I was maybe a little bit on the tighter side. I think I do tend to be when I knit, but yeah, that's the gauge. In terms of rows, I feel like you should just try these on as you go anyway. Obviously once you get to the top of the hand part, you can kind of make them fit however you like. So yeah, that is that. So welcome to the voiceover portion, and I hope that you can bear with me because I am a little bit ill while I'm recording this. So as it says on the screen, you want to cast on 48 stitches using a long tail cast on, and here obviously is a clip of me doing that, but if you need a more in-depth tutorial, I would recommend looking at a different YouTube video. But you basically want to cast on 49, and then when you connect in the round, you basically pull one of the last stitches over on the other side, so you have 48 left in total. So once you've got your 48 connected in the round, you're basically just going to start knitting in a 2x2 rib. So you knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. I do apologise that I look like I'm struggling so much in this clip. The basically the fixed circular needles that I was using to knit these on, the cable on them was not cooperating too much, so you can see once you get further down the cuff it becomes a little bit more clear how the stitches are laid out. And yeah, you're basically going to do this for 10 rows in total. After that, you do 5 rounds where you literally are going to knit every stitch, and this is the point that you should be at. This next part I feel works best if you're doing it in magic loop. So basically what you're going to do is, if you're doing it in magic loop, you're going to knit across all the way on one side until 2 stitches before the end. Then you're going to knit a stitch, you're going to make one right, as you can kind of see I'm doing here, and then you're going to knit the last stitch on that round, well, on that bit needle, that's what I'm looking for. And then basically when you move your magic loop to knit the other side, as you can see I'm struggling to do here really well, you are going to knit the first stitch and then pull up the yarn in between to make one left, and then continue knitting the entire round. For the next 3 entire rounds you are going to knit every stitch. So you'll have basically done 1 round with the increases and then 3 rounds with just knitting every stitch, no increases, and those 4 rounds combined you're going to repeat a total of 7 times. So here I'm just showing you on the mitten that I've already knit what the increases are going to do, so you can kind of use that as a reference as you're going, that basically it's going to shape the glove so that it fits around your thumb and the side of your hand quite nicely. So yeah, here I'm just showing you again, this is another increase round, so the increase points are always going to be the same on every row that you do increase, so it's always going to be 1 stitch in from kind of halfway through where you split your magic loop. And I do apologise, I know that through this video I do sometimes split my stitches and miss them, it's just the way that this yarn was made, okay? But yeah, so here you just knit and then make one right just before the end there. So if you haven't done a lot of increasing before, or if you forget, because sometimes I do, make one right is when you pull up the piece of yarn in between your 2 stitches and knit it through the front, and then on the other side when you do a make one left you basically will do the opposite, so you will pull the little piece of yarn up onto the needle and then you knit it through the back. On a bit of a tangent, watching this footage back makes me realise why people really don't like magic loop. I swear it's just these particular needles, the cable on them's really bad for magic loop because it curls up so much. But yeah, you can see here I'm just doing a make one left, so you pull it up the other way and just knit one through that like back leg, and then you just continue knitting as normal. So once you've basically repeated that block of 4 rounds 7 times, you should have started to shape the side of your glove, and it should start to look like this. So if you slip it on at this point, you'll be able to tell kind of how it's fitting. It's kind of meant to come up to the base of your thumb, so I'm just putting both the gloves on here. I do apologise, that little piece of yellow thread is because I had my thumb stitches on hold on the other mitten, but yeah, you can see how it comes out and just makes it a lot more comfortable to wear. So this next round is where we're basically going to cast off some stitches for the thumb, and this is going to be the last round that's the same on both of the gloves. So you want to knit across every stitch until you have 8 stitches remaining on your first needle. I'm still speaking about this in magic loop terms, but yeah, you basically want to have 8 stitches left on this front needle, and you're just basically gonna put them on hold. So It's really completely up to you how you prefer to put things on hold. You'll see in a second, I just used a little bit of scrap yarn. Yeah, you can see here, these are my 8 stitches left. So yeah, I just used a little bit of scrap yarn that I had. I'd cut it off as an end from a pair of socks recently, so it was just kind of to hand, but you can totally use like barber cords or an extra like interchangeable cable or literally whatever you want, but you just need to put them on hold, not cast them off. So you literally are just going to slip them onto the little yarn needle, and this yarn's a bit annoying. It's a little bit splitty just to do things like this, but it works up super nice. So hopefully you'll have a little bit more ease when you do it. But then once you've put those 8 stitches on hold, you're going to cast on 2 onto that front needle, and we're going to kind of adjust those in a minute, but just for now it's easier if you just cast on 2 on the one side. It's just a little bit less fiddly. And then when you sort of like turn the work to work down your other half of magic loop stitches, you're going to kind of do a similar thing. So you're going to put the first 8 stitches on hold here. So you're basically putting 16 stitches in total on hold, and yeah, like I said, this is kind of for the thumb, and those 2 stitches that you casted on, they're just to help bridge that little gap in between your thumb and your hand. They just make them fit a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more ergonomic. So yeah, gonna cast off, or I keep saying cast off, you're gonna put on hold 8 here and then just knit across to the end of round. And this is exactly the same if you're doing the left or the right glove, and then we're about to kind of change things up in a minute. So yeah, literally finish off your round, and that's it for this one. So yeah, like I said, we're just going to adjust those 2 stitches that you casted on, and basically what you want to do is split the round so that it's in the middle of these 2 stitches. You can just see here, using my nails as tools as per usual. This is basically going to make sure that you have 24 stitches on either side so that your magic loop is exactly kind of split down the center, because obviously it's a 48 stitch row. Sorry if the audio keeps changing. I have filmed this over multiple days, but this is where your gloves are going to start to differ. So I'm knitting the left glove. So on this glove, what you're going to do is you're going to, on the first half of your magic loop stitches, so the entire first needle, you're going to knit in 2x2 rib. And then on the back, you're going to just knit every stitch. So this is basically going to start to shape the opening where the mittens are going to fold. You're going to do this for 5 rounds. And if you are working on your right glove, you're going to basically do the opposite. Sorry I'm struggling so much in this video. I don't know what just happened there. But if you're doing the right glove, then what you need to do is you need to knit the entire front needle, and on the back you're going to do 2x2 knit, and again that's for 5 rounds. So essentially on one glove you're going to do the rib first and then knit, and then on the other glove you're going to knit and then do the rib secondly on the other needle. So here you're able to see a little bit clearer what this ends up doing. So on one side you'll have continued the stockinette, and on the other side you'll have 5 rounds of the 2x2 rib, and basically the side that has the stockinette is going to be the back of your hand. So you can see why when you put the 2 gloves together you need to do it the opposite way around on either glove, and that rib portion is going to be in the middle of your glove. Now what you're going to do is on both gloves you're going to do another 5 rounds of entirely 2x2 rib. So it doesn't matter if it's the left or the right, you're going to have rib on both sides now. So again, in this clip, hopefully it makes it a little bit clearer that this is how your glove is going to look. So on that back side of your hand, you're going to have just the 5 rows of the rib. This is the little piece that you casted on 2 stitches for your thumb, and then the inside of your hand is going to have 10 rows of the rib. And yeah, that was just another side view. At this point you're going to cast off every single stitch. So the way that I like to do this for 2x2 rib, but of course, you can change if you don't want to do this, is on knit stitches, you knit them, so just like I'm doing here, and pull the first loop over your second one, and then purl on a purl stitch, which I feel like maybe this is straightforward, but anyway, and then you pull that knit stitch over, and then purl on the next purl stitch and pull that over, and basically just repeat. So anytime you have a knit stitch, you knit it and then pull the yarn over, and anytime you have a purl stitch, you purl it and then pull the yarn over. And yeah, you're going to do this for the entire round, so you'll have nothing left on your needles at this point. So this is what you should have at this point, and I guess honestly, if you wanted to, you could definitely just leave it here if you just kind of wanted like a fingerless mitten, I suppose, and just do the thumb. But as you'll see, it becomes a lot clearer why each side needs to be different, why you do different for left and right. And basically the next step is going to be to pick up for the fold back portion and yeah, start knitting up to the top of your fingers. So I find that this step is maybe a bit fiddly. I wouldn't say it's difficult, but what you want to do is on the side that the stockinette goes up further, so the side that only has the 5 rounds of the rib, is along the top line of where the stockinette is, literally like in the stockinette stitches, you're basically going to pick up 24 stitches with a fresh piece of yarn. So I was trying my best to show you on video where exactly to pick up, but like I said, this yarn is not the easiest to read. I feel like it's probably just a little bit easier to actually see what I'm doing. But yeah, essentially 5 or 6 stitches from the edge, you're going to pick up a new stitch in every stitch that you did before, and as you start knitting, this is what gives the back that look that the entire back is just knit in continuous stockinette, because you won't actually see any of this rib when the top half of the mitten is up on your hand. Once you have picked up all 24 stitches, this is kind of what you should be looking at. So yeah, you're going to have all the picked up stitches at the top of your stockinette portion, and then the other side of the glove is just pretty much all rib, so you won't be doing any picking up on the other side. And then with this new piece of yarn that you've picked up stitches for, you're going to have to cut the yarn here. You're then going to want to long tail cast on another 24 stitches, and you need to make sure that you're doing this on the right needle, so not the needle that you just picked up stitches with, but the other needle on your fixed circular or on your circular or whatever is the one that you want to be using to do a long tail cast on. These 2 sets of 24 stitches are going to connect in the round in a minute to make another 48 stitch round. So the ones that you picked up are going to be the back portion of the magic loop, and these ones that you're casted on are essentially going to act as the front portion of the magic loop. I think it will make more sense in a second when you see how these are going to connect. I do apologise about the cable that I'm using again, because you can see here it is really frustrating actually, but what you want to do is hopefully you're struggling a little bit less than me. You're gonna move the casted on stitches down to the tip of the needle so that they are basically so that you can start working them, and you're going to use the working yarn from the stitches that you just casted on to start knitting, and this is basically going to connect them in the round. Now the thing that I found was really fiddly about this was where you've cast on stitches, obviously that is just like a free piece of yarn, and every time I was knitting the first and the last stitch in the row, I found that they were really loose because that piece of yarn just kept pulling out of the stitches. So you can see me struggling a little bit here. I was going to edit this all out, but you know, just in transparency. So what I would maybe recommend is once you've casted on those 24 stitches is maybe weaving in the ends, either end of it. It will just make your life a lot easier when you come to this part of starting to knit in the round. So yeah, what you're going to do is you're going to knit every stitch along this portion where you picked up the stitches, and once you get to the end of this little, this first needle, you're basically going to knit onto the back section of the stitches, which are the ones that you casted on to connect in the round. But on the back side, what you need to do is you need to do it in 2x2 rib. So the stockinette is going to continue up where you picked up the stitches, and then on the ones that you casted on, you're going to do in 2x2 rib, and that's the same for both the right and the left gloves. As you can see here, to connect in the round, all I did was just literally started knitting into that first stitch. So knit and then knit the second one, and then purl. It's that simple all the way to the end of the round. So obviously your picked up stitches are going to be connected to the rest of the mitten. These ones are kind of just hanging free. They're not connected to anything, and that's what's going to enable you to be able to pull this piece over and on and off of your hand. I think this will kind of make more sense after you've done a couple of rounds. So yeah, you're going to do this for 5 rounds where you knit on the one side and do the rib on the other. Hopefully seeing it like this will make it a little bit clearer for you, but basically, like I just said, the ones that you've knitted are going to connect to the actual glove and just look like a continuation of the back piece, whereas those ribbed stitches and the ribbed half are going to be the ones that you pull over and back and forth. And you can see if you pull up these knit stitches, it just literally looks like a continuation, and from the outside you hide those rib stitches that we did on the actual glove portion. And then where you've done these rib stitches, they should align with the ones that you've done underneath. So all the rib will be essentially on the palm of your hand and the stockinette will be on the back. The video does jump ahead a little bit here, but I don't think it's anything that needed in-depth sort of visual help for this. I knitted every stitch for 20 rounds. So basically I did 20 rounds of stockinette after that initial 5 rounds that we split and did half rib, half stockinette. And the way that I measured this is kind of so that this portion went to the top of my ring finger. So I made sure that it fit in the nail of my pinky finger. Like I said earlier in the video, I always have the same fake nails on, so I was doing mine to compensate for that. Obviously at this point you can decide if you want to make this piece longer if you've got bigger hands, which is probably likely because I do have really little hands. The way that this should line up is so that on the portion where it opens up and you've got that rib, where you have the 10 rows of rib on the palm of your hand, and then you have the 5 rows of rib at the bottom of your fold back portion, they should align sort of in the center of those 10 rows, because obviously 5 is half of 10. So if you find that to make this reach the top of your ring finger it's really gaping open, I would recommend doing a couple of extra rounds, but this is really completely customizable to fit however you'd want them to. So we're now very close to finishing off this mitten. We're just going to shape the top, and if you've ever knit a sock, this is very similar to shaping a toe. So I knit 1 stitch and then did an SSK, so a slip slip knit, and basically knitted down the rest of this half of magic loop stitches until I had 3 stitches left, and then I did a knit 2 together and then just knit the last stitch on this needle. And on the back side you're going to do exactly the same thing, so knit 1, slip slip knit, knit across until you have 3 left, knit 2 together and then knit the last stitch in the round. So that will be your first round, and then for second and third round you're basically gonna knit in stockinette. So you knit every single stitch, and this group of like 3 rounds you're gonna do 3 times. After those 3 rounds, you're going to do a similar thing. You're basically going to do 1 decrease round and then 1 round in just plain stockinette. So you're basically still decreasing, just at a quicker rate, and you're going to do that again for another 3 rounds. So just the same, but every other row instead of every third row. So now that we're almost ready to finish this portion, it's a good time to actually try this on and make sure that your fingers fit inside this top portion. If you think that it's going to be too short or even too long, now is probably the time to rip back and add some length or take away some length and then just redo this top shaping portion. So the way that I closed off the top of the mitten is again like a sock. It's just by using a Kitchener stitch, and again I'm not going to actually go into too much detail about how to do a Kitchener stitch here, but essentially you will have to watch another tutorial, unfortunately, if you don't know how to do a Kitchener stitch. You can kind of see what I'm doing here. It's definitely easier than I think it looks. It's quite a repetitive motion. It's very similar to an Italian or tubular bind off, but essentially you graft both sides of fabric together, and it's quite a nice technique because it looks like the knit stitches continue over the top of the glove. There's no like harsh seam or anything. So once the top portion of your glove is all secured, finished and casted off, all that's left to do is just pick up those thumb stitches and just knit a really short sort of like open thumb portion. So the way that I'm doing this in the video I actually wouldn't recommend, and I'll explain to you why in a second. What I did here was where we casted on 2 stitches in between the thumb and the hand, I picked up 4. So I picked up 1 in either stitch and then 1 either side. I tend to do this whenever I pick up stitches because I find that it helps close those little holes that you usually get. And then once I casted on the 4 stitches, I started to re-pick up all of those 16 stitches that we put on hold. Now what I would actually recommend for you to do is if you pick up these 16 stitches first and then cast on the 4, because it doesn't really make much of a difference, but I had to rearrange them in a second to get the like start of row in the right place. So put the stitches that you put on hold back on your needle and then pick up 4 in the little gap that was created originally. So you should at this point have 20 stitches on your needle, and you just want to split this so that you have 10 either side of magic loop again, or if you prefer to knit this on DPNs, whatever you would like. I'm just doing this whole thing in magic loop. So the thumb is super simple. I literally just did it all in 2x2 knit, well 2x2 rib, I always say 2x2 knit, just for 10 rounds, and then literally casted it off in the exact same way that I casted off the sort of like hand portion, and that is it. You are literally pretty much done before washing and blocking. So here you go, this is just a little try on of the mittens before they've been washed and blocked, and you can see that thumb portion that I did is pretty much in line with the rib on the palm of the hand. At this point I also hadn't done the thumb on the other glove yet, so you can just see the difference here, and obviously this isn't a full thumb. I just prefer to have my thumbs out. It's just easier like when I'm using my phone and stuff, so this is just how I wanted them. There is just a little job left to do, and that's just adding a loop on the top of the finger section here and sewing on the button. I just used one of the ends that I had cut off that I had woven in elsewhere, and you can see I just basically ran it through with a needle, pulled the other piece back through and then held that loop in place while I tied it off on the inside, and then just weaved the ends in on the inside of the glove, and you literally can't see or feel it in there. So yeah, once you have finished the top decreases and you kitchener stitch up the very top, the only other things that I have done are literally put this loop on here, which I literally used like one of the ends that I cut off, and then I sewed on a button here just with a normal needle and thread. Where I placed it is literally right at the top of the rib. What I would do is I would quickly button this so that I can show you what it looks like on. That's just because that's, I don't know, where my, I don't want to keep calling it a flap, but like where this bit reaches just comfortably went to the end of the rib. Obviously, if you extended the top, you might need to move your button down, and likewise, if you extended here, you might need to, like, your button might be in the middle of stockinette, it might not be at the top of the rib, but just for the sake of showing you, this is what it looks like on mine. And this is now after I have weaved all of my ends in, and I have also blocked these gloves as well. So you can kind of see how on me at least this kind of sits in line with here, because obviously we did the rib the same. The increases sit super nicely on the side of your hand, and yeah, I guess that's that really. I hope that was clear. But yeah, thank you so much if you made it all the way to the end of the video. I would love to know if you end up making any or post any pictures on Instagram or anything. Definitely send them to me on message or tag me or whatever. I would love to see. And I hope that this video was clear enough. Like I said, I haven't filmed any tutorial style things before. I'm sure that there's room for improvement, but I feel like a lot of people ask me how I knit things, and since I self-draft and I don't have patterns out for most of my things, it's kind of like difficult. So I feel like a little accessory like this is just quite easy to show. So yeah, if you like this video, definitely like and subscribe, and you can follow me on Instagram if you want to, and TikTok. I always post up-to-date information over on Instagram regarding patterns and everything like that. So yeah, hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.